Hello there, and welcome to another interesting episode of the interview. I'm so delighted today to have Professor Jacob Olupona, who is a professor of African religions and African American studies at Harvard University, where he has been for many, many years. He is a recipient of several awards, including the prestigious Martin E. Marty Award for Public Understanding of Religion, and also the National Merit Award by the Nigerian government. Professor Olupona has presented papers that have to do with addressing national issues in Nigeria. He has been invited by Nigerian presidents, and he has done a lot of work that time will not permit me to start enumerating. That will take the entire time of our conversation. Professor Olupona is also a recipient of several honorary doctorate degrees from various universities, and he has just informed me that his alma mater, the University of Nsukka, has just informed him that on June 12th, they will be awarding him an honorary Doctor of Letters. Congratulations for that, sir. I'm so delighted to have you join me for this wonderful conversation.
Yes, thank you very much. But if you don't mind, let me correct you very quickly.
Yes, sir.
That university is called University of Nigeria, Nsukka.
Yes, that's true.
Not University of Nsukka. I know that a number of you are fond of calling it University of Nsukka. We don't like it from UNN. Okay, all right, thank you.
University of Nigeria in Nsukka.
It's the only university of Nigeria in the world. Okay.
that we're off for a very good start. As you can see, this is going to be a very wonderful conversation with Professor Olupona. Thank you so much for joining me for this wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I want us to start this conversation by talking about your background. I know that your background is something that you cherish most a lot. You come from a background of Anglican pastors. And do you mind sharing how your background has shaped your quest for religion and religious studies and all the things you have been doing for several decades?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Seth, for bringing me to speak. In this forum, I'm sorry that I have not been quite available, given all the circumstances and the issues that we are dealing with here. I'm very honored to be part of this conversation. And I'm always delighted when I see up and coming young scholars, Nigerians and Africans and African Americans who are, doing great things. So I want to congratulate you and wish you the best in this.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, my background. Yes, I was born into an Anglican family. And both from my father's side in Ute, in our area of Ondo State, and my mother's side, Okegbo, also in Ondo State, you find lots and lots of folks who are staunch Anglicans. I always talk about my grandparents, and I knew them very well, to be evangelical Christians. And why do I say that? I say that because the kinds of Christianity that we're witnessing today in Nigeria, where people are just talking about almost one dimension of Christianity without looking at the other, which is, work and prayer together. That was not the kinds of Christianity that my grandparents belonged to. When I hear story of people saying, oh, they want to fight against ancestral costs that they know they have been caused. They need to change their names. Their grandfather were in this. I said, no, you are not referring to my grandparents. My grandfather, my mother's side, my father's side were staunch Anglicans and evangelical Christians. So I was born into this family, and I was raised as a Christian. My father and my parents were teachers. My father was also a teacher. My mother was a teacher in the town where I was born in Okigbo. And then at the end of it all, my father decided to be a priest. And so he was sent to the seminary in Ibadan. They used to call it Mevu Hall in those days. I think it's called Emmanuel College now. That's where he was trained as a pastor. And then he came, was sent back to Ondo Diocese, where he was deaconed and ordained. And then he worked in this very large church called St. Peter's Anglican Church in Leluji, now the seat of a bishop. It was also in that town that I met my wife, my wife, Josephine Modupe Olupona. So I must say about my heritage that I was I was born into a strong Anglican family, and in fact, just about 2 hours ago, I was having a conversation with some priests from my hometown in Ute, and also the Anglican archdeacon in Ifon. They wanted to talk to me about certain things in the church, and I had to be telling them stories of my upbringing and the importance of this in my upbringing, and the importance of it in terms of my being. What I often say and I write about is that for me, Christianity and Anglicanism is more than just a faith tradition. It's a faith tradition, just as you claim to be a Muslim or a traditionalist. But it is also for me a heritage. It's part of my inheritance, and I take it very, very seriously and very dearly. However, I must also tell you that that was not why I studied religion. That is to be made very, very clear. When I was born as a twin, Ibeji, in the Yoruba tradition, in my mother's hometown, Okegbo. And my mother was a teacher. My father was also a teacher. And of course, they needed help. So what my grandmother did was to ask her niece to come and take care of the twins. So they used to call her Mama Kende, Madam Uronike. So she would come, take me to her place, and then in the evening bring me back while my grandmother was taking care of my twin brother, Taye, unfortunately, who died. So because this mother, the Mama Kende, my second mother, was a traditionalist. She was married to a traditional priest who was also a drummer in this town. So the idea of raising a twin in the real way of a twin was real. So she raised me as a twin. So she would do the normal weekly ceremonies they do for the Ibeji. They will sing, and they will gather children from the community to come and dance and sing, and they will make little drums for me. So I was introduced into culture. Let me put it that way. From day one, I was introduced into Yoruba culture through the Ibeji, my own Ibeji heritage tradition. So I grew up understanding that and knowing that, and that stick with me forever. So my love for culture, my love for tradition, comes into that. But I am not a practitioner of African religion. I'm not a practitioner of Orisha tradition. I have a lot of respect for them. I believe that in terms of it as a body of knowledge, epistemology, it's a very, very important, useful, significant part of us. And part of our problem today is that because we jettisoned it and we converted to Islam and Christianity, so we found ourselves in a constantly liminal figure, between and between. We're neither here nor there. So, and this came out very clearly during COVID. COVID, when people now, COVID-19, when people now decided to begin to look at their past, their tradition, the traditional healing system, to find out how they are going to respond to this very critical problem. People now started looking for dongoyaro leaves. I think it's called mint. Yeah, they started looking for. If you taste a dongoyaro thing and boil it and you stick it, you know that it is like chloroquine. It's as bitter as chloroquine. So people wanted to go back to that. This is our number one problem as a nation, is that because of religion, because of a lack of understanding of the role of religion and tradition in the society, we have jettisoned our glorious past, trying to take interest in the herbal medicine that our grandparents and grand ancestors used and used very well, doesn't mean that it conflicts with your belief in Christianity, in religion. The other part of it has to do with ethics, morality. You see, all these things that Muslims and Christians are doing and saying about Orisha tradition, about traditional religion, they are total nonsense. In the sense that when it comes to morality, traditional religion takes ethics very, very seriously. They take ethics very, very seriously. They know that as a priest is forbidden to go and take the wife of a fellow priest and then begin to sleep with her. They know it is wrong. So the kinds of things that we see, we have conflicted all kinds of stuff. We have no clear understanding of our past, of the knowledge of tradition, and we are thinking that once you begin to take a look at it, then you are a pagan. In fact, even the use of the word pagan for traditional religion is wrong. So I was born into Christian tradition. I take it very seriously. And for me, it's part and parcel of me. It's part of my being. But it doesn't mean that I should not pay attention to traditional indigenous religion as a scholar. That is why I have studied it. And what is also very interesting, when people read what I write, say, for example, the book titled The City of 201 Gods, which has to do with Ilefe. The next thing, the question is that how can you write such a book with depth and not be a devotee of Orisha? It's total nonsense. Part of it has to do with the fact that the training of scholar is so important. And if we don't train the scholars very well, they will not be able to do in-depth research. And the purpose of doing this research is not to turn you to become an Orisha devotee. It's to be able to explain your past, the African past, to the present generation of students. And I think I have succeeded in some way, in doing that. I know I have answered more than the questions you asked.
Yeah, yes, sir. I want to, what you're saying is very important because the line between, studying a thing from an epistemological perspective and also being a traditional, a practitioner is often conflated. When for instance, you have devoted your life and for many decades, you have been, writing about African traditional religions, and it is very easy for people, I understand, to just read that and think that you are that is what you believe. So I want you to kind of clarify, especially for the scholars and also practitioners. How can one actually study a particular thing without being immersed in it as a practitioner?
Very good. Yes, that is a very good question. It has to do with the way we study tradition. I was very lucky. I every day of my life, I thank God, not only for the kinds of parents that I had, but the kinds of opportunities that God had given me. And that is why I believe I need to also give it to others, the young girls coming in there. When I came to Boston, to America, to be trained to study as a scholar, I came in 77. After my UCO, in Ilorin in 76. I joined Ife, and Ife trained me for, I was there as a junior fellow. And then in those days, you are sent abroad to be trained if your field of study is not at home. And because I wanted to do comparative religion. There was nobody to teach me comparative religion then. Then they sent me, so came to Boston. In fact, they wanted me to go to Britain. I had 7 admission letters to Britain, but I knew I was not going to go there because of this very colonial mentality and the past. I don't hate them, but I just don't want to. I just didn't want to receive my training there. So one of my mentors, Professor Akiwowo, who also studied in America, Boston University, he knew the problem. And then they were threatening me that they were going to get my scholarship if I do not make up my mind and find a place. So he called me one day. Professor Akiwowo said, "Have you heard of Martin Luther King before?" I said, "Yes, the civil rights leader." He said, "Okay, would you like to go to the university where he studied?" Oh, my God. Oh, yes, it would be an honor. Of course, I had scholarship. So Professor Akiwawa knew I would not have a problem getting a place. So he wrote to them. And then I applied. I formally applied and I was admitted. So I got in there. That era, the era when I was trained, it was the period of phenomenology of religion. You probably understand that. And part of the thing with phenomenology of religion, you are trained to study tradition. And if you are studying a tradition, that is outside your own, you must apply phenomenological approach, which means that you must bracket all the things you know about yourself, about your tradition, and enter the space of scholarship with an open mind and begin to look at this new tradition and write about it and do it to such an extent that when the devotees see it, they will say, "Hey, is this man one of us? Is he not one of us?" Because we would have done it very well. I was very lucky that I was trained in America at this particular time. So phenomenological hermeneutics as a way of interpreting religion allows you to do that. It's the first approach to the study of religion. Look, you will not believe it. I took more courses on Islam than any other tradition when I was there. I took more courses on Islam. I remember, and then the time I finished my coursework, I was ready to tease my professor. You're deliberately teasing them. I'll give you one example. Psychology of religion. So the idea was that you take a theory in religion, and I can talk to you about it. I know I'm talking to the whole world. And then you use that theory to apply it to the life of a personality in religion. Everybody worked on Christianity. I said I was going to work on Islam. So what I did was to apply cognitive dissonance theory by Fessinger to the life and times of Al-Ghazali, Imam Ghazali, you hear them call it in Nigeria, to talk about how his life, in terms of his biography, unfolded, and that it was as if Fessinger knew him when Fessinger was talking about cognitive dissonance. The professor, I was the only one who did my paper on Islam. The professor was thrilled. He called my supervisor. He said, "You know this African young man in my class called Jacob Olupona." And instead of my professor, Marilyn Swartz, who is very much alive today, and I'm very grateful to him, of answering directly, he started smiling. And he said, yeah, it's Jacob. Yeah, that's the way he behaves. He probably reminded him that he knew I was teasing him. I wanted to show him that, you know what, black people are not dumb. We know what we are doing. So what I'm trying to say, my brother, is I had good training. So when I finished in 83, they wanted to give me a job. People were saying, we're going to keep it. My father said, "No way, you must return to Ife. Ife trained you. You must go and train your people." And I'm always grateful to God that I heeded that warning, that I should go back to my place, to Ife, and train young scholars. The opportunity that Ife gave me, I should go back and put it to use. So I had no doubt And one of the things I did when I was in Ife was that I would always take students with me to do field research because I wanted to show them that you don't have to belong to a particular tradition to study it and study it in depth. You must have respect for the tradition. You must understand it. You must write. You write about it. You don't have to be a devotee of it. Why they have not been able to do it at home is because they've kind of imbibed this Christian Muslim story about their past and their tradition being pagan. This is why we're in trouble. We are in trouble today because this is what we have done. Look, one Christian Yoruba song, which I like, in praise of God, it says, "You have asked me not to pluck medicinal leaves. You have also asked me not to uproot roots. Ìwọ ló ní kí n má já ewé. Ìwọ ló ní kí n má wọ egbò." That is, those things that you will use for traditional medicine, even for malaria, even for malaria. He said, "You, God, Jesus, you have asked me to abandon all this stuff." It's in praise of God, in praise of Jesus. Look, was Jesus opposed to the use of herbs when he was alive? Was he opposed to the use of leaves? Isn't some of his miracles attempts to demonstrate his humanity? Isn't it to demonstrate the importance of words? Jesus used incantation. When Jesus said, he got to a place, say, "Talita kumi," I say unto you, rise up and walk, right? That sentence is not translated from the Aramaic because it's not translatable. It's in the original. It's an incantation. A biblical Christian incantation. Jesus spoke words. The words were powerful. Words are not just ordinary words. Words carry meaning and power. If you look at the life of the prophets, of African prophets, whether it's Babalola and modern prophets like Baba Adeboye and so on, their words are powerful. Their words are powerful. It's like you are speaking to the spirit. You are asking the spirit, "Look, if you are my God, I want to say this thing, I want it to be." It's a continuation in that so prophetic tradition. So scholars of religion like you, particularly those out at home, we have a lot of work to do. And those before us, people like the late Bolaji Dowu, my teacher at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka Edmond Ilogu, they were not like this. They didn't conflict both. Even as pastors, when they preach sermons in their chapels, Bolaji Dowu in Chapel of Restoration in Ibadan, Professor Ilogu in our chapel at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, their sermons were powerful. They also refer to tradition to make sense. Ilogu refer to Igbo tradition to preach. Occasionally, when I love our Bible studies here, which we do every Tuesday, and one of the reasons why I love it is that it gives me the time. Once I read a passage given to us by our priest, I begin to reflect on it from my own African perspective, and I make better sense in that. And by the way, this is one of the reasons why I do not like what is going on in a lot of churches today, where indigenous language is being discouraged. Where look, anytime I read the Bible, I don't understand it. I go to the corner of my house and take out my father's Bible, Yoruba Bible, to read, to understand. I take his song. This book is I have his things there, and then I take it to read, and I have a better understanding of it than the English Bible. So I, I'm very disappointed in so many things, happening in Nigeria today. And if you've been following the life of this country, even from the time of independence to where we are, you will not be surprised why we are in trouble today.
Hmm.
And I hope you know we're in big trouble.
We are, so we'll be talking the later
Yeah.
part of this
So
interview. I want us to talk about that
the
specifically.
scholarship. So in other words, what I have done, and so that's why again, a few years ago, I came back to Ife. I left Ife in 1990, and I came back and I said, look, I need to go back again to the beginning. We need to create something that will lead to this continuation of training young scholars. So I came, we established what we call the Ife Institute of Advanced Studies. We began with the Somali Institute. We've done 5 already. We are continuing to do that. We're adding, it's in the civil sciences and humanities. We're going to add STEM. I mobilize scholars. I mobilize scholars from here, from Britain, from America, the best and the brightest among them. They join their colleagues at home, because our colleagues at home, our professors at home, some of the best and the brightest in the world are still there.
Mhm.
So I sort of make people understand that this idea of thinking that those at home are not doing their work, they don't know what they're doing, that is not true. It is true
That's right.
that a lot of people, a lot of professors have problems. They're not doing their best, but that doesn't mean we should generalize about
Mhm.
Nigerian academy. That is not, it's not right. So we are moving mountains. We have started well. The young scholars we are training are doing well. They are applying for fellowships abroad. They're going for conferences. They know the importance of it. Last year alone, because of COVID-19, we did it on Zoom, and people came from all over the world. It's not just for Nigerians, but also Africans and folks outside even the continent. So so I'm glad that God has given me the opportunity to now work with sets of younger scholars to begin to revisit this problem that we are talking about. But that doesn't mean that one should deviate from one's own tradition.
Mhm.
Nothing will make me leave the church. Nothing will make me betray the traditions of my ancestors in Christianity. Nothing will make me stop doing the kinds of research that I love doing. Oh, by the way, I just finished a manuscript on African and the evangelical Christianity in Nigeria.
Wow.
Maybe I should send it to you to read for me, because
I,
I,
I
I love.
appreciate that, sir.
I'm going to send it to you too. It's finished. The draft is finished, because I also wanted to write about it. So
Yes.
so we all as Nigerians must begin to think about solutions to our problem. We cannot continue to to just pretend as if the problem must be solved by people in Abuja alone. It is more complex than we often think.
And still talking about religion,
Yeah, yeah,
Nigeria is one of the most religious countries in the world, if not the most religious country in the world. And we have basically the traditional religion and
mm,
Islam and Christianity, which are more pronounced in the country.
you're right.
And the fact, on the one hand, there is some kind of an irony or a paradox. On the one
Yeah,
hand, Nigerians are very, very religious, right?
yeah,
But on the other hand, religion is also constituting one of our major problems in the country. Will you say the major problem that we have with religion in Nigeria, and of course you are one person, you are a practitioner of Christianity, you know Christianity very well, you are a practitioner, you are a scholar of African traditional religion, you have done that for many decades, and you have also studied Islam, so you are very vast in your knowledge of religion, especially the three prominent religions in Nigeria.
Yes.
Will you say the major problem that we have basically is usually about between Christianity and Islam, right? When we're talking about religious problems in Nigeria.
Mm.
Will you say there is something essentially problematic or wrong or fundamentally wrong with the type of Islam and Christianity that came to Nigeria? Probably because they didn't take account, or there was some kind of negligence of taking account of culture and traditions. That is what is causing all this confusion and religious fundamentalism and antagonism in the country.
You have asked me, you want to open a Pandora box. You have asked me you have asked me a million naira question. Let me just let me take a shot at it a little bit. Number one, those who are saying that Nigeria is the most religious, they are looking at numbers, and we tend to favor that when we look at religiosity in Nigeria. This is one of the reasons why we keep seeing people building churches, churches and churches and churches, mosque, 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 because we think that what matters is number. It doesn't mean anything.
Hmm.
What is the purpose of having millions of Christians as they claim? And yet, what we know for religion, or what we know should be the role of religion in any human society, is almost zero. It's not. It's not. We can't say that. So I always caution people who talk about religion and Nigeria being the most religious thing, and we really don't know the numbers anyway. When people ask me how many Christians and Muslims, I do not know. Maybe it's good because we do not know. Because once we know, then the politics of religion will enter it. That's my first response. My second response has to do with what kinds of religions are we talking about?
Hmm.
What kinds of training are we talking about? When you begin to build churches and you build mosques, and you also, and those who are responsible for leading these institutions don't have solid training in religion, both the understanding of the practice of religion and the role of religion in the society, then that is a problem.
Hmm.
This is what is going on here. The third is that religion cannot be seen as an isolated phenomenon. Religion is very tied up with different kinds of cultures and societies that belong to us. Yeah. Ethnicity and religion, they come together. Religion and life in general, religion and culture, religion and political economic systems, they are all connected, they are all related. That is why I always encourage students that when they study religion, they must look at religion in a multidisciplinary context, or in an interdisciplinary context that allows them to see religion, what we call religion qua religion, religion as religion, but also religion as it relates to the social, economic, political system and culture of the people concerned. My former teacher, Peter Berger, you must have read about him, the
Yeah.
famous sociologist of religion. I remember in those days saying to us that, we must, when we study religion and when we try to understand it, we must see it in terms of its origin, which is the history. We must see it in terms of its significance, its importance, its social, economic, political significance. We must also see it in terms of its essence
Hmm.
and its essence, which is the area of theology and so on. And I remember when I returned to Ife to teach, I was responsible for teaching all kinds of courses, courses you will now call method and theory, from part one till part four. And I was teaching one day sociology of religion class, and they didn't quite get the meaning of what I've just said to you. Then it occurred to me, I must use an example they know to illustrate how religion can be seen in both in terms of his origin, in terms of his function, and in terms of his essence, its intrinsic quality. So I asked them, are you familiar with marriage ceremony in the Christian tradition in Nigeria? Yeah, yes, sir, we are. I said, very good. Let us just imagine that we are in an Anglican church and there's going to be a wedding. The bride and the groom, the father-in-law. So the father will take the bride and enter the church from the I think it's the Eastern Gate, and then do the procession to and then they normally start with a song. Virtually most of the Christian song, the Yoruba, the Irita Suneden, the blessing that was given in the Garden of Eden. You remember that song?
Mm-hmm.
You are a priest, aren't you? I think you're a priest.
I am, sir.
You're ordained in Ekwa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's my friend's church, Yusuf Turaki's church.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes.
Very good. Okay.
Yes.
We were classmates at
Yes.
Boston
Yes.
University. So
Yes, sir.
it starts with that.
He tells me a lot about you.
I like singing these songs in Yoruba. Ìrètàsù ni Eden, nígbéyàwó kìíní, ìbùkún tàbùkún wọn, ó wá síbẹ̀. Powerful song. It's an attempt, that's the beginning of that word. It's an attempt to tell us about the origin of marriage as a Christian institution. So that we must, the history of it is that it talks about the marriage in the Garden of Eden. The blessing, the primordial blessing that was given by God to, these Adam and Eve, that blessing, that primordial blessing is still there till today and today. So that primordial blessing is being now reinvoked to have the couple to be. Then the procession will continue, and then they will stop at the middle of the church, not the holiest of holies. Then the pastor will come from his wherever he's sitting and come down and be talking about why was the institution of marriage established. He would then recite it for conjugation, procreation, and this and this and this and that. And then, is there any one of us here who is opposed to this, marriage, so that before we proceed? And if there's nobody to say no to it, then we will proceed. Now, that ritual at the middle of that wedding, that is when the functions of marriage is recited. Procreation, harmony, cohabitation. That is the role of that. That's the role of religion in the social, economic, political context of the society. I just use marriage as an institution. I can apply it to any. I can apply it to any phenomena. Then after that, then they'll go to the last stage. Maybe after the sermon is given, then they'll go to the holiest of holies, where they will receive the blessing. Now, the exchange of ring is to show that these two people are coming together, and to death do us part. That is, no matter what happens, you must remain together. That is why in the Catholic Church, for example, if you go for a divorce, you are in trouble. They will debar you from taking communion. They'll say you can't come and take Eucharist. The Catholics are pretty very interesting people. I love them. I love the Catholic. All you have to see is to see what my friend Father Kuka Ishokoto is doing today. Speaking truth to power. That is because Catholic priests are well trained. They are not theologians. Most of them are not theologians instead of that. But most of the theologians we have in Nigeria, they come from that tradition. They are not afraid of speaking truth to power, and they have a way of doing it because they have been properly trained. Anyway, that's another story. So now the question then is that, let me test my thesis, my hypothesis. The functional element in the study of religion, which is the middle one, we can test it. If it happens that this young couple, within 6 months or 1 year, they start fighting and throwing hot water at each other, and this thing, and they go to a court in Lagos, if the magistrate can prove that it is no point asking them to live together, they're going to kill themselves. One will kill the other. They are allowed, the magistrate is allowed to dissolve it. That's what the Constitution of the nation says. So the functions of the marriage is not workable here. So you go your way, you go your way, you go your father's way, you go your father's way, and that's it. Now, that doesn't apply in the Christian tradition. In the Christian tradition, which is the third stage, you have been told that it is for life, till death do you part. So you can't say because your wife can't have a child, is barren or whatever, all those things we hear from Nigeria, that the next thing, then the mother-in-law will start saying, hey, telling the son, go and look for another wife because this one is not, the kinds of things that is where that happens when the function of marriage is no longer applicable, particularly in a society where women are blamed for everything. You can't do it. It's the woman who is there. You cannot drink properly. It's the woman who is making it. That kinds of problems and gendered issue. So the functions of, but in the third stage, which phenomenology says is the essence of marriage, you cannot break it. That is the realm of theology. That is the realm of theology. The middle realm, which is the functions of marriage, can be resolved by the civil institution by just saying go your way. So, and anytime I kind of use that, they just get it. And I said to them, beyond the phenomena of marriage, you can apply my theory, this theory and ideas of Peter Berger's statement to anything, any religious phenomena. So any phenomena that doesn't look at that in that very critical context, it's faulty. There's a problem. It's a very valid theory that we need to, and scholars, what we train our scholars to do is to be able to translate difficult concepts and ideas to new ways of understanding religion for the benefit of their students. And I'll say that when I was at IFE as a young lecturer, I did that successfully. And that's why I believe most of my students, several of my students who studied with me, they took it and ran with it. And, a number of them who are professors now in America. If I start mentioning names, I'm going to forget some of them. And Europe and everywhere.
There are quite many, sir.
Yeah, that's where I trained them. So, and they have, through that, trained more people. And so that's my take on, religion, that if you want me to summarize it, I will say that I take religion as a phenomenon seriously. And I take my Christian tradition seriously. I have no apology to give to everybody for claiming to be a Christian. And I believe I'm a Christian. Others may say I'm not a Christian, but I know I'm a Christian. But in addition to that, the proper study of religion is important. Let me come back to your second question, because you mentioned that about Islam and Christianity. Yes, part of the problem has to do with the history of these religions. And we have to be very careful. We cannot generalize. Islam in southwestern Nigeria, as you know, is very different from, say, Islam in some other places. Something happened in Ilorin lately where they were fighting. Muslims and Christians were fighting over schools, over boarding schools, the wearing of hijab, and so on. And that led to serious crisis and so on. And then we saw videos of I think Muslims going in to disrupt Christian churches and so on. And I don't know if the reverse also happened. I didn't see that. And my first reaction. That was how I came to the conclusion that Ilorin is not a Yoruba town. They may be speaking Yoruba there. I don't think they are Yoruba. Because, you know what? Because if you look at southwestern Nigeria, No, no, no. I know it is politics. I know that. It's going to be difficult for, say, for example, Owo, my grandmother's place, where my grandmother was born. Under normal situation, I should be in Owo this weekend because they are burying our Baba there, the late Professor Ijalai, who was a mentor to a lot of us. They're burying him this weekend. So I missed that. If you look at the Punch newspaper of Thursday, you will see the advert that a number of us, myself, Professor Abiodun, and architect Ojomo, Tayo Ojomo, placed because he was a mentor and a baba to all of us. So in Owo, my grandmother, my father's mother, came from a Muslim family. In all Yoruba towns, this is what you are going to see. You are going to see Muslims and Christians coming from the same lineage.
That's true.
The first time I studied for my book was Ondo. If you go to Ondo town, whether it's the Awoshika family or the Fawoemi family or the Akishete or the big families in Ondo, they are almost 50-50 Christian Muslims. Fawoemi, they're well known, is a typical example. I used to know people like Justice Fayemi when I was young. Of course, we know Gani Fayemi as a Muslim, Justice Fayemi as a Christian, and that kind of. So that is the mix of that. So for the Yoruba people in southwestern Nigeria, religion doesn't define their identity in the traditional sense. Is the, as the Professor Kijagbo would say, is the Ebi concept, the lineage tradition that defines our. So if you go and you go to this thing to destroy a church, you are destroying your brothers or your sisters' church.
That's right.
We never don't conflate that with more modern, new born again Muslim radicals who are disrupting Egungun and fighting the masquerades and all these things. Those are modern inventions. In the traditional Yoruba society, religion was well respected. And if you look at some of my books, you'll see how I describe the life of religion, particularly Muslim Christian religions in Yoruba towns and cities when I was young in the 50s and the 60s. So when I saw people carrying water, doing a hammer and going to the schools, the missionary schools to disrupt and to pull it down, and I said, these are not Yoruba people. If they claim to be Yoruba, there's a problem. Because I do not expect any Yoruba person, any right-thinking Yoruba person, to either go and disrupt a mosque or disrupt a church or anything that is. So what kinds of politics are we playing that has led to it? What kinds of politics, for God's sake, has led to just over the wearing of hijab? All these traditions, all these things, all these kinds of things that came from, outside. Huh?
And talking about politics, religion plays a very important role in Nigeria's politics. Do you mind speaking a little bit about that? The relationship between religion and politics, and the pros and the cons, especially given the Nigerian realities.
Well, first of all, religion and politics sort of dovetail. There is no place in the world, Nigeria is not the only place, where politics and religion do not intersect. We see it in America every day. All you have to do is to look at Trump's era and look at that. And somebody turning around and say Trump was a Christian. I say it again. And say it again. I want to hear that again. But when you look at the consequence of it, Nigerians were more beholden to Trump than even Americans themselves. During the campaign, they bought Ashwebi. They were all over the place dancing and carrying. And I said, how much did they give to these people? a Trump who called Nigeria shitholes, who called us all kinds of names, who is so racist, that, he would like to see all of us dead. You are celebrating him in the streets of Nigeria. There's something wrong with us. This is a problem. So, but back to your question, we are not the only place. There is no place in the world, whether it's America or Britain or Germany, where religion and politics do not mix. But it is how it is controlled. It is how it is done that matters. We can't stop it. And then there are different ways of this interaction, based on theory and the practice of faith. Even at the local level, there's politics. The election of the Pope is political. All you have to do is to interview me on why Arinze was not made a Pope. I was involved in it. I was one of in the campaign team, saying that this is the time to have our own black Pope. I mean, a modern black Pope. And I knew what happened. I knew the time the tide turned against him. Up till almost few days before that time, in terms of the polls, they were still suggesting that Arinze was going to be the next Pope. And all of a sudden, something happened. Cardinal Fessinger, who was not a cardinal known for even smiling. He doesn't smile. He used to be he started smiling, and I called a friend and say, the media have done a good work. Arinze is going to lose this election. He's not going to become a Pope. He said, how do you know? BBC kept saying, Arinze, I was interviewed. And I believe that until yesterday. The second thing that he did, he dominated the entire ceremony of the burial of the Pope. So he had even become a Pope before the election even took place. So I'm just telling you this to tell you that it's not just a Nigerian problem.
Yes.
But why the Nigerian crisis becomes so difficult to this is that we don't use reason enough to process and do things, the right way. This is part of the problem. Back to the Islam and Christianity you talk about. Culture everywhere is always taming religion. Culture everywhere. African culture is so strong that it has succeeded in every place in domesticating Islam and Christianity. That's what happened in southwestern Nigeria. And the time in Nigeria, where the Sufi brotherhoods, the Tariqas, were very strong. Before Gumi began his revolution of antagonizing the Sufi tradition, because it was through Sufism that culture, that Hausa culture and Hausa tradition, in the way we know it, entered Islam. So the move to radical Islam, which began with Gumi, must not be missed in writing the history of religion in Nigeria. We mustn't miss that, and particularly in northern Nigeria.
You are talking about the late Sheikh Muhammad Gumi.
Yes. So don't forget that when he was given the prize in Saudi Arabia, what did Nigerian Muslims call the prize that Gumi was given? They said he was given the Islamic Nobel Prize. Maybe you were too young to understand that at that time.
I was.
They were equating it with Shoyinka's Nobel Prize. So Gumi was so powerful that he was able to change the course of Islam in very, very indirect way, more than the Sultan at that time. So, and he was the one that waged a serious war against the brotherhoods, the Tijaniya and the Qadiriya brotherhood, accusing them of being the one that is bringing culture and pagan tradition into Islam. They have not succeeded in doing that in southwestern Nigeria because the lineage tradition is very strong in southwestern Nigeria, the Yoruba tradition. That is why, in spite of all the things, we have not allowed religion, I'm saying we now because I'm a Yoruba myself, to disrupt us. Because once you bring religion into it, you are killing your own people.
Hmm.
That was what made me say that the story of Ilorin is unique. And for me, Ilorin is not a Yoruba town. I know they are going to get angry when they hear this, but I hope I have explained myself.
Yes. Yes.
Because when you start doing that, I mean, somebody should have even said to them, you know, can you imagine a Yoruba king, a king in a town, sitting and witnessing the destructions of schools? No, let me ask you,
Hmm.
can you imagine, say, the Ooni of Ife, or even Oshemawe of Ondo, or the Olowo of sitting in his palace and hearing that schools that have served generations and generations of students are being destroyed because of religion?
Hmm.
Huh?
Hmm.
Look, I did my UCO at Ilorin. Let me get you some basic bitter truth. I did my UCO in Ilorin. I was at the College of Tech. That was before the university was established. And they gave me a job after that. They were so happy with me, they wanted me to stay. The reason why I left they were going to give me level 9, more than what young graduates were earning. I left because I noticed that it was impossible for other ethnic groups or people outside Kwara to come to that place, except if you lie about your place of origin. Hmm? And I said to myself, how will it be possible for me to sit down reading exam applications and knowing fully well that I'm asked to set aside applications from southwestern Nigeria or from places outside this thing? It's not that they even have a quota. They just say no admission. Then I told the principal and those who loved me there. I had lots of people who loved me. They didn't want me to leave. And I love Ilorin town. In fact, I also taught in a secondary school. Your pro bono. I just taught in a secondary school. I think it's called St. Charles. I went and taught BK. And one of the things I noticed that the best 10 students, first 10 students in my class who did BK, they were Muslims.
Hmm.
They were Muslims. Yes, I recall that. So I wanted to stay. I love Ilorin. But when I saw that, I said to myself, this place is not for me. My father was shocked. He said, but you have a job. I said, no, it's not about having a job. I'm not coming. I'm coming home. So then I went. So as soon as I got there, they have found a school for me to teach in Origbo Community School. So I went and taught as a student. That's why I taught the additionals, Femi Additional, in the presidency. His junior brother, his senior brother, Tayu Additional, who's a professor of history, and even their sisters, highly, they are from a highly distinguished family, in Origbo community. That's why I taught them. Then 7 months after that, I joined IFE. I was interviewed for a job and I joined IFE. I'm going to write about all these things later in my memoir because
That will be quite
I
interesting.
didn't just walk into IFE and just say, no. They didn't have me in mind. They wanted an IFE trained person, and I was not trained at IFE. So mine was just to fulfill righteousness that they even agreed to interview me. But somehow, some things work miracles through the assistance of the head of the department at that time. But then my training at Tonsuka, I had good training. I published as an undergraduate. I had two essays published as an undergraduate at Tonsuka.
Oh, wow.
So when I came and they saw my CV, they couldn't believe it. Then they said, in all honesty, we have to let this man in. That was how I got into IFE. Well, the grace of God, I'm always claiming that, the grace of God. I woke up yesterday night. I didn't even know what happened to me. And then a cousin of mine had posted a song, and I just said, I read it. I said, I must send it to everybody. That says, we are saved by grace alone. you know. So that's why, in spite of being a scholar, I'm almost, moving back and forth. Occasionally, I would just imagine myself preaching a sermon, and I say, "How will I preach this sermon?" You know. But when I remember my late father, who was a highly distinguished Anglican priest, just to tell you, my own thing. So back to the Nigerian case, that we got it wrong. Instead of us to develop indigenous form of Christianity that will now take seriously our culture, our tradition, without necessarily causing any problem, without necessarily breaking any rules. The truth of the matter is that northern Nigeria is caught between African culture and Arab culture. And that produces something pretty tough. And this is why we are in this dilemma. This is why we're in this crisis. We do not know where we belong. We are suffering from problems of national identity, and we have not been lucky to have leaders and rulers who understood nation building. That is part of the problem from day one. If you look at some of my writings, and I'm sure you've seen some of my writings on civil religion and so on, where I showed how in a pluralistic society such as Nigeria, the concept of civil religion is so important. And there are two types. There is an assumption in the Durkheimian sense that any functioning society that moves forward must have sets of myths, rituals, and that bond them together. They must have that natural affinity to each other. But if it is not there, it behoves the rulers to create it, to make it work. That was what Gowon did with NYC. That's why when NYC was NYC, that was a national civil religious act. And if we this is not a classroom, if we subject it to critical analysis, it's a rite of passage in the Van Gerep sense of the typical rite of passage. But when you now look at it, it is broken. By the way, religion is science. Religion is science in the hands of scholars who know what they're talking about. There was a time I wrote a letter to NYC, and I said I did NYC at the Lorry in 1975, and I saw what happened there. Now, the NYC I am seeing today is very different. And is doing exactly the opposite of what NYC is meant for. NYC is to bring people from different parts of the country, put them together, make them go through the rituals and the rites of nation building. And while they are going through that as a rite of passage, they must not be involved in anything that will disturb that process. What did I see? I went in there. Then I found out that they have formed different kinds of associations. I started seeing National Christian Doctors Association. I started seeing National Muslim Pharmacists Association in the camp. And I called the attention of somebody that said there's something. Unfortunately, they didn't understand what I was talking about. In fact, one said, am I saying that Christians should not be having prayer meetings or Muslims should not be having prayer meetings? Then when I knew they didn't get it, I just said, well, we will leave everything to God. That was supposed to be the process and the place where it's like the crucible of nation building, where you put them in and the product that you're going to get out will be different. Now see what happened. And as I see the sacrifices that a number of these corpers have given, such as those corpers who were killed in northern Nigeria in 2011 during the election, they were recruited to serve as observers in the election booth, and they were murdered. They were killed. I think they were about, I don't know how many of them died. I know one or two came from Bagan. a town where my father used to be a priest. I cried. I cried. That what kind of nation is this? Where did we go wrong? But the most painful and difficult part of it is that our leaders do not understand what we're talking about.
That's true.
They don't understand. They do not understand.
Or maybe they have chosen not to understand.
No, I think the quality of leadership is gone down. And anytime you raise an issue like this, it becomes a personal issue. Oh, it's because it's a Yoruba. Oh, it's because it's a Igbo. Oh, it's because it's Nupe. Which has nothing to do with it. Am I making sense?
That's true. Very true.
So this is part of it. But at the same time, it is wrong for us to blame our leaders for all our problems. The followership. Aren't we the one electing them? You can say that in Nigeria, there's nothing called election. What is selection? But how can they continue to fool you every 3-4 years? How can they continue to do that? Aren't we the ones benefiting from this fraudulent arrangement? It's a very, very fraudulent arrangement. Aren't we the one benefiting from it? Those who benefit from it do not want it to go.
That's true.
They don't want it to go. So we need to understand that. And then, of course, we are in another crisis, insecurity. And that is the most difficult thing. I just got a note from, my folks at Harvard saying that security report doesn't encourage me to travel to Nigeria, for my award. We're still talking. I bought my ticket. And you know why that is important to them? Because I'm a professor here. So they know it is their responsibility to take care of me. If anything happened, they want to make sure they can account for it while I'm still their professor. So I'm not surprised that they are very worried about the Nigerian situation. How can we just open our eyes and see what is happening? People being killed and butchered, left, right, and center. In a democratic thing. Where are our leaders? Where are our rulers? Where are our elders? If Buhari is not doing well and Buhari is messing up, and for whatever reasons, maybe for health reasons or for whatever, where are the other leaders? Where are our leaders? Do we have leaders? Or do we just fold our arms and allow Nigeria to disintegrate? Because the way things are, it's as if Buhari is presiding over the liquidation of this nation. And it may not be his fault. Maybe it's the structure that is set up. Maybe he's not well. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just asking. Because I don't want us to begin to blame people for whatever reasons if we don't have a clear idea of what is going on. Or is it because those who really want to, come back in 2023? Because I know the politicians are busy talking about 2023. They are not concerned with the present. They are talking about the 2023. Nigeria is a strange country. It's a strange place with highly intelligent people at home and abroad. That's why the whole world is worried. I'm telling you, everywhere we go, they ask us, what is going on in your country? Why should the most formidable black nation in the world be turned into a failed state? So we should stop, if possible, blaming people for our predicament. All Nigerians must begin with one thing. Let us first of all blame ourselves. Let us take responsibility for what is going on. Let's start from there. The road that is in front of your house, where there are all kinds of potholes and all kinds of drainage problems there, is it Buhari who is responsible for that? You failed to cut the grass around your this thing there, and everywhere is upside down. So is that Buhari's problem? So at the local level, we have failed.
That's true.
At the regional level, we have failed.
Hmm.
We have failed as a church. We have failed as a mosque. We have failed as citizens. You know, how did we allow cabals and people like this to take over our nation? How did we get here? These are critical questions we should be asking ourselves at this point. Things that were almost would have been totally impossible in 10, 15, 20 years ago. They are happening to us, and we are powerless. We are watching. We are busy. We want to read about Nigeria in CNN. Yeah? We want to know what the Europeans are saying about us. So we depend on the news we are getting from there as the way to measure our failures and our successes. So I hope you don't mind my rambling.
No. I mean, you are saying a lot of things that are very, very important. You mentioned something about you asked a question, a rhetorical question, I suppose, that are we going to just be passive while we watch our nation disintegrate?
Yeah.
These days, everyone is talking about a seeming or a most probable disintegration of the nation, and looking at what is happening in the southeast, in the southwest, and in the north, in the middle belt. Everywhere seems to be in chaos. What's your take about this? Do you think we'll still have one Nigeria in the next 10 years?
Well, I maybe both of us will need to go to a diviner, to consult a diviner, and that's for once that let them cast it and tell us.
Because, but we are not practitioners.
Yeah, because our prophets, our prophets, I haven't heard much from our prophets these days. They used to really say a lot about the Nigerian situation. Talking seriously, I am afraid. I've never been afraid of what is happening. Do you know what it means for me to be told and be advised that I must not travel to Nigeria?
That's scary.
Do you know the psychological effect of it on me? I used to be to tell people here, okay, well, do whatever you want to do. Holiday is coming, I pack my loads and go. There's always a home. In my father's home, there are many chambers. Can I still say that? If I tell you I'm not afraid, I am lying to you. We don't know. Part of the reason why we do not know is that we have not seen any sign that someone is in charge. And whoever is in charge is willing to come in and solve this problem. I don't know if you have seen it. I've not seen that.
There's no sign.
I cannot say that the president has proven to us and the world that he's in charge. We hear the word the presidency, and generally when they say the presidency, they will just read something to us. Generally, we hear from, is it Mr. Malam Shehu? What does that mean? Does it include the voice of the vice president, who is very cerebral, trained lawyer, well respected? What does that mean? What does it mean of the presidency? Is there I hear the word kabab, but I'm not interested in it. I'm not interested in the word kabab because I don't know what it means. So this is why I cannot say and predict that this is what is going on. I've heard about I've always known about the Biafran agitation that has been on for a long time. And what I saw a few days ago when there was when there was the protest, and they simply asked people not to go to the places of work to celebrate the Biafran Day, and they recorded almost 100% success. It's a clear symbolic indication that the entire Southeast is failed. It's an indication that the voice of the people will matter. It's an indication that what we should have used peaceful means to resolve, and long ago we have failed to do that, and we are now seeing the result of it. The state has failed. There's no doubt about it. That's a clear indication of that. What is going on in Southwest is also disturbing. When you see the atrocities and the killings of people by the Fulani, you will not but be sad. People have left the farms; they can't go and farm. So the young man called Sunday Igboho, who reacted to the killings of his own people, and said, "We can't just be looking where we have been butchered left, right, and center." Now said, "We must come to the rescue." That's the way the Yoruba people see him. This is the way they see him. They see him as like a liberator, particularly in states where governors are quiet. They don't know what they're talking about. We appreciate the fact that some of them have come up with some bodies like the Amotekun to protect people. But don't forget that the federal government is in charge. If the federal government says you must not carry a firearm to defend yourself, what does that mean? Doesn't it mean that the federal government is aiding and abetting the killers? No, tell me, that's the meaning of it. If what they're trying to do is to protect themselves, and then of course they need firearms. And the Fulani folks who are going are carrying AK-47. The unfortunate part of it is that people generalize about Fulanis. Fulanis have always been with us. Fulani, Hausa Fulanis, they've always been, you go to the Hausa places, you see them trading in Kola North and all kinds of stuff. They've always been our neighbors. So where are we going with this? And it has to do with the fact that we don't know who's in charge. Whoever is in charge, who's in charge of it, is not effective. Something is going wrong. So because we are not able to predict it, so I'm not able to say what will become of Nigeria. But all I can say is that the signs are clear that Nigeria is disintegrating. And the earlier we solve it, the better. If you look at it, people are moving in large numbers to Southwest and creating more problems in Southwest. Because people are escaping and running away from danger places and going to where they can go. And they're creating problems in these new places. Because all those new places have no resources to cope with what they are seeing and what they are witnessing. So there's chaos, total chaos in Nigeria. And the fact that elders, whenever there's a problem, you call on the elders to come and come back and come together to find a solution. It seems this is impossible in this context. So anyway, let me just. This is so I can predict. And since you've said that you don't want us to go to a diviner to take the okpele and cast it and tell us. So what we'll put our faith in God. In God, I will recite our psalms and pray for the peace of Nigeria. I remember my father in those days, the reference to Jerusalem, and he was fond of that Jerusalem prayer. He was fond of it. So, but we cannot give up. But Christians must recognize that prayer is not enough. I read all this stuff. Oh, all Christians must come and fast for 3 days, and I believe in fasting. I believe in prayer, but that is not enough. Prayer without work is zero. That's what I would say.
If you have a one-on-one audience with the president of Nigeria, what will you tell him?
I'll say to him, Baba, with due respect to you, we elected you to come on board because we still remember what you did in the past when you were the head of state as a military man. That's why we brought you here, to come and help us. And I think I wrote an article in the paper somewhere here. I think one of these papers, when he came on board, where I think I used the reference in a very interesting way, almost the reference I used when Murtala Muhammad died. That the story of in the Bible of the disciples who were talking about Jesus, and Jesus appeared to them, and they did not know, and then they were talking, and he said, he said we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. So when I commented on Murtala Muhammad in one of those articles, I think it was Civil Religion in Nigeria, I kind of used that text because it was a text used by a catechist in the church I worshipped in Ilorin, in a place called Baboko. I was surprised that a catechist who didn't have solid theological training knew the terrain very well and used the most appropriate text in the Bible to describe Murtala Muhammad's death. For we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. I'll go back to that. And so when I wrote this article when Buhari came on board, I referred to that. I think I referred to that passage. That we had hoped. I would say to him, Baba, we hoped that you're going to be the one to redeem this country, given your pedigree, what we know about you. But somehow you have not done that. Something went wrong. Something happened. And I will state to him what I think caused this. One is that for whatever reasons, your idea of nation building is not the best. How do you appoint people to key positions? And all people can remember are Fulanis from your ethnic group. When was that done? When do you remember that was done in Nigerian history? No. How do you, I will even ask him, Baba, I don't know how you are comfortable with these kinds of appointment, knowing fully well that all these key people are from your ethnic group. We didn't know you were like this before. We would not have asked you to be the president of Nigeria. I will crave his indulgence is that I want to talk to him as a father. And God so good, I am 70 already. So I can still be considered to be a man of wisdom.
You are so.
And I said, Baba, you know what? It is not too late let us talk about what we can do. I'll say to Baba, when I heard that Professor Gambari, a man I know very well, a man with strong pedigree, was going to be your chief of staff, I rejoiced. And I think I sent a note to Professor Gambari that, oh, this is going to be a good opportunity for him to have a good person, a well-known diplomat, who will be able to advise him on what to do and help him to kind of retrace his steps and bring Nigeria back to, order, whatever. But it has not happened. I've just been told now, talking to people that Gambari is not in charge. Unlike the former chief of staff who was in charge, Gambari is not in charge. And I'll say, Baba, if you think you are not well, you are ill, God is in charge of our health, and that this will not allow you to continue to be a president or a good president, why don't you do something about it? If your fear is that you don't want another Yoruba person who is a vice president to replace you as president, as it happened during the period of Jonathan and Yaradua, then you may get your lawyers to talk about a constitutional crisis and let them find a solution to the problem. Just tell them what you think. Maybe negotiate with the state. But let us have someone who will be able to bring Nigeria out of this mess. Because we are in a mess. And finally, I will say to him, forgive me if you think I have said anything that will offend you. But that I want you to know that I'm saying it with all sense of responsibility. I'm saying it because I love you. I'm saying it because I know that maybe what is going on, all these things are beyond your power. But that you should be humble enough as a true Muslim to know that you do not want Nigeria to liquidate under your watch. That's what I'll tell him. That's what I will tell him. And hopefully he will listen to me and maybe do something about it. Because you see, if we are not careful, this will lead to civil war. It will lead to a war, or a civil war, or even wars, or whatever it is.
And talking about the civil war, just 2 days ago, the president that we're talking about tweeted, don't know whether he did it himself or someone did it for him, but it's his Twitter account anyway that had to be deleted. I don't know whether you saw the tweet making reference to civil war.
What did he say about civil war?
He was talking about the Southeast, and he was talking about the tweet. This is a paraphrase of the tweet which I saw. He said something like, talking about the Southeast, what is going on in the Southeast, that the people that are making trouble in the Southeast have forgotten their history. And he specifically mention of civil war. And he said something like, if they don't remember their history, they will deal with them the way they understand better, which was like a reference to what happened during the Civil War, that Twitter had to take the tweet down.
Well, that's most unfortunate if he did that.
It's his Twitter account. Whoever did it is his Twitter account.
Yeah, that was most unfortunate. That such words will come from President Buhari. Very sad. Very, very sad. Of course, he's entitled to his own opinion. But but that's not. It's not stately at all. I'm very sad that he said that. And part of the problem is that we don't even know who is acting. We don't even know if these things are really genuinely coming from Buhari, or coming from people around him. Honestly, we don't know. This part of the problem. I didn't see it. I didn't see it. So thanks for sharing it with me. If you said that, well, I would say that that was quite an unfortunate statement, or an unfortunate tweet.
Yeah, especially coming from the president who is supposed to unite the nation. And
Yeah.
so you recently celebrated your 70th birthday. You made reference to it a few moments ago.
Yes.
Congratulations once again.
Yeah.
What will you have done a lot for the past decades, many decades? You have been in scholarship and you have done a lot. What will you? I know this is not the kind of question that most people want to be asked, but I want to ask you anyway. What will you want to be remembered mostly for?
Well, I first of all, Africans and Nigerians are fond of dodging this question, because we don't, as a tradition, prepare ourselves for our eventual departure, whether we like it or not. It will come. We only pray to God that we live long. The Yorubas will say, "Kama fi ojo lojo lo," that we should live at the appointed time, not live when it was not time for us to go, because they believe that God's God, that the Lord has a purpose for us, and has a purpose for our life, and of course He knows when He will say to us, "It is finished." So, but we have to begin to think about it. I think what I would like to remember, or be remembered for, is that I was born very well, born into a highly dignified Christian family, and I did not betray the trust that my parents gave me, which is a life of service, dedication to humanity, kindness, and recognition of human worth, whether it's the poor or the rich or whatever. And also to be remembered for being a person who did not fail to recognize the grace of God in my life. Knowing fully well that whatever I have become, or whatever I will still be, is ordained by God, and I'm working according to a script. I want to be remembered for using my my resources and my knowledge to promote scholarship, and to help the junior ones and the young scholars, so that we can create for them opportunities that I was able to enjoy through the assistance and help of other people. Be remembered for the fact that I raised the bar as when it comes to the study of religion, not just in Nigeria, but also on the continent, particularly the study of religion as relates to Africa. And that I preached peace, and that I love my country.
Hmm.
I love Nigeria, unconditionally. I love
Hmm.
Nigeria, and that I also succeeded in inculcating to my children this very noble value. So there are certain things I expect from them, and I don't make noise about it. They just do it because they'll say, "Oh, that's what our father would like us to do." That's a strong heritage. So, and it's the grace of God that sort of makes it happen. I finally will want to be remembered for my ability to make friends across, nations, across ethnic groups. Uh, I must say to you that some of the best part of my life I lived when I was a student at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka.
Hmm.
You won't believe it. I mean, I had a good time, really, and I enjoyed living there, and I had friends, and I can't write my history without talking about University of Nigeria, Nsukka, Igbo friends, and people that that taught me. My teachers, I remember that till today. So the grace of God is, sufficient for us, and I, I always keep this in mind, that I'm lucky. I've been well brought up by my parents, and they set, uh, my feet at the right path to tread, and that I didn't depart from the way.
What a wonderful way to end this interview. It was a great honor and a privilege to
Thank you.
interview you, Professor Olupona. This was quite interesting. It's like we should just keep talking. But thank you so much for taking your time. You said a lot of things here that they require one to just pause, rewatch this, and think and try to digest a lot of the things you have said. Thank you
Thank
so much. And one of the things you said that is so profound is you love your country and you love it unconditionally. For me, that really hits me really hard. And
Thank you.
thank you so much for your legacy. Just as you said, a lot, I know quite a number of people, a lot of professors that you have trained, were your students, and you have impacted your life so much on a lot of people. And we really, really appreciate you. Africa is really proud of you, and the entire world is proud of you. We pray that the Lord will continue to elongate your life so that you continue to build
Amen.
legacies that you have.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you so
Amen.
much for making time to be part of
Amen.
this.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. For all of you that contributed and participated in today's program, I appreciate you. Until I come your way next time with another interesting episode of the interview, bye for now.
Thank you.